So for this next DIY project, all you're going to be needing is this 11 by 14 picture frame from the Special Moments collection at Dollar Tree. You're going to need a box cutter or X-Acto knife, a pair of scissors, some paint color of your choice, something to stir the paint with, a paintbrush, and this really cool placemat that I found at Dollar Tree that just says bless. So for starters, you're going to start by removing the backing and all the contents from inside this picture frame to get it prepared to throw that coat of paint on top of it. So now that you got your picture frame all taken apart and set to the side, so you're going to just want to go over it with a nice generous coat of your paint. And I will say this, guys, these picture frames, I don't know if it's because of the size or what, but they are the flimsiest frames ever from any of the Dollar Tree. This one already came apart and I had to glue it together, just opening up the backing. So you have to be really, really careful and, you know, paint it ever so gingerly and gentle, because you really can't be aggressive with these frames at all and rough handle them, because they'll fall apart on you. So just a little heads up. So this is what the frame should look like after it's all painted. No biggie. I could have also hit it with a coat of spray paint if I wanted to, and you could as well. However, I opted to hand paint it simply because I didn't want to have to go outdoors to where it was better ventilated, and this paint dries pretty quickly. So that's why I decided to hand paint it. So now we're going to move on to the next step, which is just assembling it. But before we can do that, we got to cut the table mat down to size. Now normally I would use either the paper insert that the picture frame came in with, or either that's the backing, you know, the cardboard that comes on the back, and I would just use it as a template and call it a day and cut it down. But because I want to make sure I center this pattern correctly and I don't want to chop off any of the lettering, I'm going to be using the glass that it came with. So I know it's kind of hard to see on camera, but I'm actually framing the mat with the actual glass so that I can get it centered to exactly where I want it to be once I put my frame together. So I know that I want to have this little detail on the side, but I'm not going to be able to get the whole entire detail in with the little squigglies out on the end. So I'm going to center it so that even if it cuts off these little squigglies, it's not going to bother me, because it's going to have the entire frame inside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my trusty box cutter, and I have a one of these chopping mats underneath, and this board just for a little added safety and security so I don't cut myself. So I'm going to put that underneath, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut along the edge of the glass, but I'm going to have to do it off camera, unfortunately, because where I have my tripod set up is going to not be stable enough for me to do it on cam. And there you have it. I have it all cut down to size, and it's pretty centered in the middle to where I want it. So I went ahead off camera and I used some of this Dollar Tree auto glass cleaner, and I wiped off all the fingerprints on the glass. So now it's just a matter of assembling the frame back the way it came. So I'm going to be putting the glass back in the frame first, and we're going to be assembling. My bad, because this glass is so flimsy, I went ahead and I put a little dot of my trusty glue on each corner before layering the glass inside the tray, so that it could be a little more secure, because remember, this glass is very, very flimsy. So now I'm throwing my placemat in there, and I'm also going to put this paper that it came with back inside, and I'm going to put the cardboard also as well. And this is the scary part, guys, because remember I told you this frame is so flimsy, and I have had frames that have busted on me and broken the glass in the middle of DIYs after I've gone through so much trouble because the glass is so cheap that it cracks. So I'm going to carefully, what I'm using here is just a popsicle stick, and I'm ever so carefully folding these little black clips over so that it can hold the board in place. So now that I got all my clips bended back in place, this is what the frame should look like. This is the reveal and the moment of truth. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my trusty old sanding block, and I'm just going to gently go over some of the sides of the frame. Not too rough. Remember, you can't be aggressive with this frame at all because it's so flimsy. And I'm just going to rub it a little so where some of that black is peeking through from the original color of the frame to give it that distressed farmhouse look. And this is what it should look like after the light distressing with the sanding block. And that's it for this DIY. I just went over it lightly. You can see some of the black peeking through a little bit just on the, corners. I didn't go over the top, not too heavy-handedly, but just ever so gently. And that's it for this DIY, guys. And that's simple, so easy, so quick, and yet so lovely. I hope you enjoy. So for this next project, it's going to be an upcycling, if you will. So I have this little pumpkin that I put together last year for fall, and this was just one of those styrofoam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and I painted it and I blinged it out, bedazzled it with some gemstones, and that's what went with my fall decor theme not last year. So this year I'm not so much going to be blinging things out. I'm gonna go more the rustic route, and so I decided that I'm just going to recycle this project, and I'm going to be removing some of the bling, and then I'm going to be adding some of this Dollar Tree burlap and lace ribbon that's so farmhouse right now. And so I'm just going to be cutting it and gluing it down after I remove the gems, and I'm going to be gluing it down just exactly the way that I glued the gems down, and then I'm going to be putting some of this pearl beading in the middle instead of the gems, and probably going to be adding some of this lace to the top of the stems. And that's about it for this upcycle, guys. It's just going to be that simple. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the same piece of burlap that I cut down, and I'm just going to use this as a template, and I'm going to go to town cutting a bunch of pieces to size. And it's kind of like decoupage because I'm just going to be gluing it with this glue until I get the coverage that I'm comfortable with, and then I'm going to be adding the pearl. So I feel like because one of the first steps towards priming one of these carvable pumpkins for any project that you're going to be doing with them is to get rid of that hideous orange color and give it a coat of white paint. So because I already skipped that step altogether because this is an upcycle, I feel like it's gonna go that much quicker and easier. So the only thing is that it's extremely messy because my glue gun is on the fritz. Again, I'm opting to use this Beacon Magnatac 809 glue, and it's pretty good as far as, adhering and it being odorless, but it's very, very messy. So that's the only downfall. So what I'm going to show you here is that what I'm doing is I'm actually sorry, I was out of frame. What I'm doing here is that I'm showing you is that I'm folding in the corners to make sort of like a triangle. And so that's how I'm gluing it down so that I can fit it as close to that stem. You don't want to leave any gaps, so you want to get it up as close to that stem as you possibly can. And I went ahead and I pre-cut all these pieces like I said I was going to do, using the first one as a template. And so I'm just going to keep folding in the corners as such, and I'm going to keep gluing it all the way around. So basically I'm just squeezing out the glue and pouring it on the burlap itself and not on the pumpkin, because the pumpkin is styrofoam. I feel like it's sucking up this glue. So I'm just doing it on the burlap. Once I get the amount of glue that I feel like I'm comfortable with, that's going to be enough, I'm just going to, like I said, bring it up as close to that pumpkin stem as possible. And as I'm going down, I'm going to try to, even if the seams overlap, it doesn't matter, but I'm trying to pull it taut as I'm gluing it down so that it doesn't bubble up. So although the project in itself is pretty self-explanatory and simplistic, it's also pretty tedious because I gotta keep stopping to go and wash my hands, honestly speaking, because this glue is so wet and messy that it seeps right through the burlap fabric. You know, the burlap has these little meshy holes in it. So every time, you know, I press on it to adhere it, the glue, you know, seeps out and it gets all over my fingers. So I gotta keep stopping to wash my hands. And it's not like I could wear gloves to do this because, yeah, that's not optional, because it's just not an option. My fingers will be sticking all to it with the gloves as well. I need to be able to feel that, you know, it's adhering. I got to feel my way. So that's the only downfall. But other than that, I'm liking the way that it's coming along. And I'm just going to keep going around until I get to the end. So far this is what we have here once it's all covered up in the burlap and lace. So now I'm debating whether or not to put some of this pearl beading on it, because the burlap didn't quite line up the way I imagined that it would, and it's kind of, you know, slanted, so I'm not sure how it's going to look with the pearl on it, but I'm just gonna try a couple of strands and see how it goes, and if I don't like it, then I'll take it off. But so far this is what we have. And here's what that pearl beading on it looks like. I think what had me thrown off and a little bit scared was the way that the burlap laid, and because it wasn't straight, but I pretty much just glued it on indicative as to where a pumpkin would normally have those grooves, you know. So I kind of just divided it and disregarded the pattern that was underneath. So now what's left to do is tie a little piece of this lace ribbon onto the stem and call it a finished product, because this is it. This is all she wrote. So I'm just gonna tie a knot and hopefully get it to stay on, because the stem is kind of short. So we're gonna have to fight with it a little bit to get it to stay on. So here we go. This is what that lace looks like. What I actually did was I cut off 2 pieces of lace the exact same length, and I tied a knot going in different directions so that the lace would fall, you know, on opposite sides. This way it'll cover up any imperfections that were at the top of the stem. And I just think it came out so cute. It looks so dainty, and shabby chic and rustic at the same time. And I think it's just a neat little way to upcycle something that you already had on hand. So if you are digging into your storage and you're taking out some of your fall decor from last year and you feel like it doesn't quite measure up to your style and theme that you got going on this year, consider taking it up a notch and upcycling it and doing something like this. So I hope I inspired you once again to think outside the box and give it a try. And that's it for this project. So these were my two really quick farmhouse inspired DIYs, but I also wanted to throw in two really quick Dollar Tree home decor fall inspired DIYs as well. I don't have any video footage on it. It's not going to be a tutorial, but it's just to give you some inspiration, if you will. So I have this little DIY apothecary jar that I made, and so this was just a Dollar Tree, one of the Dollar Tree vases, and Dollar Tree also carries a couple of glass jars with lids now. They're just little storage glass jars, and they have a lid with a little plastic casing that forms like an airtight seal because it's supposed to be for storage. And all you do is you take off the plastic sealing, which comes off really quickly with a scissor, and it fits any size vase that Dollar Tree carries, the long ones, these, everything. And then all this is a little pillar candle stand that I have for years already. It's just a regular glass clear candle stand, and so I sit the apothecary jar on top, and then as vase filler, what I have it filled with are those little acorn decorations that Dollar Tree carries, and the pumpkin clips that come on the little alligator clips. I painted some of them in gray and in white, and I'll enter some footage here now of how they look when I purchased them. So I have some of these acorn decorations that I'm going to be giving a makeover to because they don't exactly go with my color scheme. Just a coat of paint on these two. I'm going to give them some TLC, and these are just those pumpkin clips that came in white, burgundy, and orange. So that was basically it for this really quick and easy apothecary DIY. Then the last bonus addition is this little Dollar Tree wall decor sign, and I'll also try to enter a quick clip of how it looked when I hauled it. And it was just basically completely orange, and it looked just like this. I didn't change much. It was orange with this beautiful font that it has on it, and I fell in love with this font, you know, the text that it had and the wording, everything. I didn't want to change nothing but the color because it didn't go with my decor color. So I just carefully, intricately painted around and through the lettering as much as I could, and I kind of shaded it and did like a faux distress finish to it, and then I went over the glitter wording with a white paint marker, and that was basically it. And that's it for these two bonus decor DIYs. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like these kind of DIY videos, please do not hesitate to give this video a big old thumbs up. And if you want to see more DIYs like this, stay tuned for the rest of the week, because for the first week in September, I'm going to be implementing an entire week of fall DIYs. So I hope you'll return for returning visitors, and for my loyal subscribers from day one, I hope you'll check back tomorrow for the next DIY. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye bye now.